Hello, this is how to install Debian 13 Trixie in a QEMU virtual machine. My host operating system is Linux Ubuntu 2504. I'm using the virtualization software Virtual Machine Manager. I have already downloaded the ISO file. So from Virtual Machine Manager main menu, File, New Virtual Machine, ISO, Browse, Debian Trixie. It figured out the operating system correctly. 10 gigabytes of random access memory, 14 vCPUs, Debian 13. Let's see if we need to customize. This is the first time that I install Debian 13 and the first time that I install it in a QEMU virtual machine. BIOS, 14 vCPUs, virt.io for hard disk and for network interface card. It's the same defaults when creating a QEMU virtual machine for Linux for the last 5 years. So the virtual machine is configured correctly. We can just press the begin installation button. It's creating the QCOW2 file that's behind the virtual hard disk, and the snapshots can also be stored there. We want to install in graphical mode. English continue, United States continue, American English continue. So it has auto-detected hardware and IPv4 DHCP. It asks the host name, Debian 13, no domain name, and it says that I should set up users, the password of the user root, by adding the initial user to the sudo group. You can leave this setting empty, similar to what other Linux operating systems do. No password for the user root because we're not using it, we're using sudo. Okay, let's not set a password for the user root. Full name of the new user, administrator, username, administrator, password for the user administrator, it didn't say anything about sudo, but hopefully this user will have sudo powers. Eastern sounds okay. Let's see what file system is suggested by the Debian 13 installer. I do not want encryption, I do not want LVM, it's a virtual machine. Guided use entire disk. VDA. All files in one partition. Correct. And it's using ext4, which is a solid choice. There will be a partition for the swap, 10 gigabytes. The rest is allocated to the slash partition ext4. I would prefer that the swap is a file, not a partition, because this will then make it easier for me to, for instance, set up Hibernate if I can change the size of the file more easily, whereas changing the size of a partition is not that easy. Okay, so we just kept the defaults until here, making sure we don't provide any password for the user root. Continue. Yes. Okay, so I'm guessing that the virtual hard disk has been partitioned with MBR partition table or GPT GUID partition table. Then at least two partitions have been created, one for slash and the other for swap. And then I see how it's installing deb packages on the slash partition. It has finished installing hundreds of deb packages. Now it asks if I have additional ISO files, which I don't, so continue. Network mirror. Use of a mirror is suggested if you plan to install a graphical desktop environment. Yeah, so this asks if you want to only install deb files from the ISO, I guess, from the DVD drive, or if it's allowed to connect to apt repositories online. Usually deb.debian.org is a good choice. Continue. I do not have an HTTP proxy. Do I want to participate in Popcorn popularity contest? Yes. Okay, let's see the selected software. So what debs it wants to install by default, the Debian 13 installer. So it wants a desktop environment with GNOME. And I'm going to not use the vanilla default suggested graphical user interface environment, but I'm going to go with KDE Plasma instead. So I'm keeping the defaults, but I'm unchecking the GNOME checkbox and checking the KDE Plasma checkbox. Let's also have an SSH server. Okay. I always use KDE Plasma, but GNOME might be a good choice if you want to see the experience that was probably most often tested by Debian, by the Debian community, and the default install that the Debian community wishes people to use. It's installing more than 1000 dev packages from the internet mostly. Do we want a bootloader? grub, yes we do. Install the bootloader. You need to make the system bootable. I'm not sure what I'm doing here. Usually when the hard disk is partitioned with a GPT GUID partition table, there will be a separate partition of type exFAT or FAT32 for the EFI vars, but I didn't see anything like that. So I'm not exactly sure what the Debian installer actually did there. Please choose continue to reboot, so the installer has finished. And we have installed grub correctly. It's booting after around 5 seconds timeout. I want to look at the settings of the virtual machine to see if the ISO has been removed from the DVD drive, and it has. The virtualization software will remove the ISO from the DVD drive after the first reboot. And we're greeted with the desktop manager as the DM, and we can log into KDE Plasma 6. But usually I do not use the virtualization software to connect in graphical user interface mode to the software, to the virtual machine. So let's see if I can do something similar also for Debian 13. This is my wiki and mariusp.github.io. If possible, to the virtual machines and remote computers, I want to connect using Microsoft's Remote Desktop Protocol, RDP protocol. On Linux and FreeBSD operating systems, I try to install the xrdp RDP server. For instance, on Kubuntu, there's the need to just install two packages, xrdp and xorg xrdp. Let's see if my nodes work correctly on Debian 13 also. Why do I use RDP? Because it's better than what the virtualization software Virt Manager provides. Better performance, snappiness. I can copy paste text between the virtual machine and the host machine. YouTube playback is better. And I can resize the virtual machine easily. I just resize the VNC client window that will tell KDE Plasma to change its resolution, which allows me, for instance, to use the virtual machine just on the, to make it take just the entire left half of the screen. Okay, so we have already selected inside the Debian installer to install an SSH server. First of all, let's try to connect to that using the SSH protocol. Let's find out the IPv4 address of this network interface card of the virtual machine. I'm going to connect using SSH, username, I could connect to the Debian 13 computer. Let's see if sudo works correctly. I'm the user root now. Let's see if these two packages exist in Debian 13. I guess they do. This provides both an RDP server, but also a xorg server that's special for the xrdp RDP connection. Now, either we can directly connect using the RDP protocol, or maybe the X11 session for KDE Plasma is not yet installed in the virtual machine. We probably can find out this directly inside the SDDM if there's a combo box for selecting the desktop session and if Plasma X11 is available here. It is available, so I guess connecting via RDP protocol will just work. At the end of the page, I have the client for the RDP protocol that I use, which is called FreeRDP or FreeRDP3 nowadays. The command line will look like this. Let's not get sound. I need to put the IPv4 address. So ends with 65. Let's look a bit at the command line. So it's xFreeRDP because the host machine is running X11. If it were running Wayland, then it would be WL FreeRDP. There's two options to choose between. There's FreeRDP version 1 and FreeRDP 3. Then we provide the username, the initial screen resolution, which is 1080p, which is exactly the screen resolution of the monitor. Then the IPv4 address of the RDP server. Then the fact that we want the best features possible, the best speed out of the RDP connection. And this parameter, dynamic resolution, says that whatever size we give to the FreeRDP window, FreeRDP will tell xRDP via the RDP protocol, hey, can you resize the KDE Plasma 6 resolution to this resolution of the window? Says that it did not connect before to Debian 13. I want to trust this certificate. I need to provide the password of the user administrator. And KDE Plasma is loading for the first time for the user administrator. Is going to create some configuration files and configuration directories, primarily inside the tilde/.config directory. Okay, let's see what happened here. So we're using the FreeRDP client, which is this window. This window is the content of the window is less than 1080p. So this resolution of the interior of the FreeRDP window is going to be the resolution of KDE Plasma inside the virtual machine. Let's prove that. Display configuration. And the resolution is actually 1920, the width of 1080p, by 1008. So the vertical resolution is 1080p minus the height of the title bar minus the height of the KDE Plasma main panel. This way there's no stretching happening, the fonts look crisp, everything is okay. And now, since we're running KDE Plasma for the first time on Debian Trixie 13, we're greeted with the Welcome Center. Let's see if the web browser works okay. So Firefox is pre-installed. Can navigate to websites. This is actually an interactive application, not just a screenshot. You can hover. So it says that this is the default layout of the KDE Plasma desktop environment. At the bottom, there's a floating main panel. There's a system tray. There's a digital clock, a show the desktop, peek at desktop. The icons only task manager and the start menu. In this case, it's kickoff. Kickoff being the application launcher. How do we close this thing? Okay. It's showing the default KDE Plasma vanilla background image, not the one that has been chosen by Debian as a branding. Move. Next. So there's KRunner, which you get to by using Alt F2. There's the overview, which I do not use. KDE Connect, you can connect to your mobile phone. Activities, which I don't use. Vaults, I do not use. And system settings is this application. userbase.kde.org, translated in various languages, which gives a bit of additional information about what KDE Plasma is, how to use it. I'm not sure how up to date this wiki page is. 2022, so I'm not even sure it shows KDE Plasma 6 instead of KDE Plasma 5. Next up, there's the KDE App Store named Discover. These are buttons, which is a problem. They should either be buttons in the sense that when you hover on top of them, there should be obvious that there's a rectangle here for the button, or if it wants to be a web thing, when I hover on top of VLC, additionally to the tooltip, it should also change the mouse cursor to be the hand that's used in web browsers for hyperlinks. Okay, so I clicked on the one of these, hopefully on GIMP, which has started the Discover App Store. So I actually clicked on Videolan. Says that Videolan is not available in the software repositories. I wonder what the software repositories are. Which ones are enabled. And I can see the ISO is still bit in part of the deb repositories, which is wrong. And then there's firmware. Okay, so I'm not exactly sure if that was configured correctly by the installer. Share anonymous usage information. Get involved. Okay, so that's the welcome center. And finish. Now let's do some of the changes that I usually do on a brand new installation of a Linux operating system. So I go to System Settings. By doing the usual things that I do, we'll see if the installation is stable, if we encounter any issues. First of all, let's make the mouse cursor way bigger. So size 24, this is a problematic combo box because it wants to choose the size 12 by default, which is a problem. Combo boxes should not change selections, so the selection should be 24. Let's go with the next one, 36. We should log out and log in for the settings to be propagated. Let's go to fonts. So font management, not fonts, fonts. And enable the best hinting possible, subpixel rendering RGB, hinting full, apply. Let's do the edges. So when I move the mouse to the top left edge, it's showing this glow effect, which I do not want. This one, so I want nothing in the top left corner, no action. I right-clicked and then selected no action. And I also want outer 15. So that was when I go like this, I want half tiling, not quarter tiling. So if I grab a window by its title bar, usually if I'm not selecting the top right corner, I do not want quarter tiling. So if I go just towards the right, I want half tiling. That's why I replace 25% with 15%. Okay, and that's about the settings that I do. Debian GNU Linux 13, X11, Info Center works okay. Okay, so everything looks as I expected. I also want the panel to not be floating, so let's change that. Right click on the panel, show panel configuration. Okay, so it's floating, should be not floating. And exit edit mode. That's it. Now I want the usual applications that I install to be available. But first of all, let's make sure we have a terminal available. So that's console. Should be pinned to the favorites. Add to favorites, which is start menu and then favorites. Console is here. So let's look at the binary package repositories, remove the CD-ROM from there, and perform an upgrade of the operating system. The ISO was really fresh, 2 days old, so I do not expect many deb packages to be available as update. So that would be update to fetch the metadata. Okay, so this requires action. Let's try to disable the installer medium from the deb repositories using discover. Maybe it works, maybe not. So settings, and then I want Debian GNU Linux to be removed. Okay, is it instant apply? Did it save the settings? Seems so. Let's try to install Midnight Commander and then navigate to the configuration directory for apt and look at the configuration files. Okay, so that would be mc/etc/apt. Okay, so there's a backup for sources.list. There's a sources.list which used to contain the ISO, so the installer medium. Let's edit the file F4. We want, I know, MC edit too. The configuration seems okay, so no more CD-ROM, and then the main line deb Trixie, which is the version, the correct mirror, and then main and non-free firmware. There's also src debs, the source for Debian files, already enabled, which is good for me as a developer. Maybe a bit too much for regular users. Okay, so that should be it. Nothing to change in here. Let's see what's inside sources.list.d, the directory. Nothing. So Debian is still using the old way of specifying the apt sources with a single line and inside a sources.list file, whereas Ubuntu nowadays uses a different file format. Okay, so let's perform a full update. So that would be apt update, apt upgrade, apt auto remove. Nothing to install. So 0 updates were created in the last 4 days, which doesn't seem possible. Okay. I'm going to continue configuring KDE Plasma to my liking. So I have console pinned here. I also want Kate, the text editor, pinned there. Add to favorites. Okay. What else? I don't need the software center. It's already pinned to the favorites in the start menu. The same for the settings. Okay, Firefox is not showing the title bar from KDE Plasma. I usually enable it because otherwise I get confused. I do not know how to resize the Firefox window, and instead I resize the FreeRDP window. So I'm going to do this also. Right click, customize toolbar, title bar, toolbars, bookmarks, never show. I'm going to remove the extra not needed buttons in the toolbar. Done. And I'm also going to configure Firefox. So I want tabs to always start with a blank page. Download to always ask. And search suggestions. Doesn't show search suggestions. At least in private windows. Okay. Let's look a bit at the advantages of using RDP. The major advantage is that everything is extremely snappy. I can program, I can do anything inside this connection. Everything's extremely fast. The virtual machine is very fast because it's using NVMe as a virtual hard disk. It has 10 gigabytes of random access memory, 14 vCPUs, so CPU threads. And then also the connection to the virtual machine is as fast as possible using the RDP protocol. Whenever I resize the FreeRDP RDP client window, it will change the resolution inside KDE Plasma inside the virtual machine. I do not need to install additional tools inside the virtual machine, such as the VMware tools, the VirtualBox guest additions, nothing. I just get the features for free. And then copy paste of text hopefully works. So it works from the host machine towards the guest machine, towards the virtual machine, and the other way around. Yes, also from the virtual machine towards the hardware machine. And this is very advantageous because I can use a web browser just on my host machine. I don't really need web browsers inside the virtual machine. And this means that my web browser is configured correctly once, just on one computer with the correct accounts, passwords, everything. And then I can connect to multiple virtual machines, to multiple remote computers, and I just navigate on the host machine, copy what I need, and then paste on the virtual machine. So I'm not making much use of the Firefox that's inside the virtual machine if I want. Okay, let's see, discover the App Store. Let's try to install the GIMP. the only source of applications for Discover is the Debian apt repositories. There's no other backend installed, like for instance Flatpak or Snap. Which means that when I want to install an application, there's no combo box in here where I can select the place from where the application should be installed. Like you might have multiple Flatpak remotes installed, or maybe also have Snap available. So in this case, there's just the option to install from one source. It is installed. I can launch it. Let's resize the FreeRDP window. Let's configure GIMP a bit. So I want this tab, which is layers, and put it in the left bottom, if I know how, which I don't. This is always an art form. Yes, I managed. Okay, so I do not want the rest of the tabs. So close channels, close paths, close brushes, close patterns, close fonts, close documents, move the resize. And this is about it. Let's see if screenshots work. Active window, copy, Control V. It has also copied the shadow of the window. Let's not do that. So include shadow, active window, copy. How do we do that? Control V. Or we could go from the GIMP main menu, File, Create from Clipboard. If GIMP is a GTK3 application, I'm not exactly sure why it doesn't use a KDE GTK3 theme. It also doesn't seem to respect the KDE Plasma icon theme. But it's okay. I am used to it. Okay, so screenshots work. The KDE App Store works. There's screenshots, reviews, URLs. Okay, so that's about it. Let's look at the list of applications installed by default. Aggregator and RSS feed reader. I do not know of anyone to use RSS feed readers, so I guess it should not be installed by default. You can right click on it and go uninstall. Unfortunately, it doesn't ask if you want to uninstall and then proceed to uninstall. It just navigates to the aggregator app page inside the App Store Discover. And from there, you should press the remove button. Drag on player for a video player. It's good that it includes the Firefox web browser out of the box. No need to install that. And then the normal application that you get with KDE Plasma, the Archive Manager, Arc, App Store Discover, Dolphin File Manager, GwenView Image Viewer, Help Center, Info Center. As music player, you have Juke, which is an interesting choice. I guess this is not the default choice of the KDE community for a music player. Kate, the text editor, that's great. Kcalc, a desktop calculator, is available in most graphical operating systems, such as, I don't know, Windows. And there's many keyboards that actually have a dedicated keyboard key for launching the desktop calculator app. I have it on function F3 on my keyboard. Okay, you can resize this start menu. It's too small for you. Partition manager, find which extends Dolphin, the file manager, magnifier glass, email client Kmail. I do not know of anyone to use desktop email clients, so I guess this should not be installed by default. Conqueror web browser certainly should not be installed by default. Contrast should not be installed by default. I'm not sure why this would be installed by default. It's just a demo application to learn QML and origami. That was very random. So large parts of the KDE PIM personal information management suite seems to be available. Kmail, the mail client, key organizer, the calendar. There's LibreOffice pre-installed, which is a good thing. I have installed Midnight Commander from the command line. PDF viewer, must have. More PIM suite. The screenshot tool works correctly. I'm not sure why Sweeper is installed by default. Especially all of the web browsing things are for Conqueror, not for Firefox, which is what you would expect. You would expect web browsing to mean Firefox because that's the only web browser that you use. So an unexpected application sweeper. And the fact that the xterm is installed is important. It's not the first time that I need to resort to xterm. I mean, inside a graphical user interface connection to a remote computer. Maybe there's, I don't know, console is not installed or not configured correctly or something's wrong there. Xterm is a must-have. It's just like switching to a virtual terminal with Ctrl-Alt F2, but switching to a virtual terminal is not available when you're connected remotely. Okay, so the default apps look okay. There's a small number of applications which are surprising that they are installed, like Conqueror and Contrast. But then they made the Debian people made a deliberate choice to have KDE PMP installed, and they have selected as video player Dragon Player and as audio player Juke. So this is it. Debian 13 Trixie is a great update, has fresher software. Everything seems to work correctly. What I would expect that they improve is that once the installer finishes and the online repositories are enabled, I would want the installer to remove the ISO from the apt sources. So maybe keep it there, but comment it out. That's just an emergency mechanism for people that install Debian and then they do not have internet access. You can still get to install some deb packages from the ISO. But in the normal case, when you can detect that networking is working, when you could connect to the apt repositories, that should be disabled. So this is it. Thank you.